Kunitsu-Gami is full of many influences from Japan culture and folklore. Even other East Asian cultures can see their influence reach this game's amazing art direction. It is truly a love letter to them. In today's video, we will be taking a summary at just some of those many themes. So let's get started right into that. The first subject we're going to be looking at today are on Ema Plaques. Ema Plaques are used as this game's bestiary and allows you to view short stories on some of the many yokai, as well as just the living life of many of the people within the game's world. Ema Plaques are left in various shrines, typically within Shinto religions, though this has expanded in popularity within Asian cultures to be a more broadly used ritual, due to not only the influences of each other within their own country, but also influences from tourists visiting by. You can often now see Ema Plaques with very untraditional drawings on them, such as ones from My Hero Academia, of all things. On the plaque, you will typically see an image with a prayer or a wish either written on the front with the image or the backside of the plaque. These were left hanging in the hopes that the kami, or the gods, would receive them and grant their wish. The reason an image is often placed on these plaques dates way back to when this tradition started. Ema itself roughly translates to picture horse, and as such, early depictions would often have paintings of horses on them, or in some case, in other various art forms, such as clay sculptures or things like that. During the Nara period within Japan, horses were extremely valuable and very expensive, and often only the wealthy or certain farmers of prestige would be able to afford a horse, and the wealthy would often literally donate an entire horse to a temple as an offering for a wish. It should go without saying the average farmer back then could not afford a horse, let alone give up any that they may have had. So eventually it became more standard tradition for pictures, paintings, what have you, to be offered instead. Why pictures, you ask? Well, literacy comprehension was not broadly accessible back then, and this ended up being their solution, to instead have art donated to the shrines. These wishes that you often saw on the plaques would vary quite heavily to anything you could really think of, ranging from farmers wishing for a good harvest, ailments befallen of one another, or even political reasons. Though the overarching purpose beyond simply religious beliefs on these wishes was also to bring together a community, a way for one to reach out to each other and strengthen bonds. Since despite how strongly one may believe in an intangible force that may help them, the people surrounding one will lead to the goals they often seek. Let's jump into some of the menus within Kunitsu-Gami. How they structure some of the menus in this game is fantastic, as it is integrated into the world space itself. Here we can go into this tent where we find Yoshiro is sitting upon her Mikoshi. A Mikoshi is a shrine given form as a palanquin used to transfer deities between various shrines, or sometimes during festivals and other such events. It's cool to see that even small little details like this have so much influence behind them when it comes to Japanese cultures. Here on display, you can also offer Yoshiro sweets, which she will eat them in whole and even thank you if you wait around long enough. This practice in Shinto is referred to as Shinsen, which translates to God and food offering. Quite straightforward with its wording, I'd say. Here on display, as you progress through the game, you get more and more sweets, that of which are all based on real-life sweets, and even come with their own descriptions if you want to know more about each of them. Ones such as Minazuke and Kawakuto. If you are able to obtain the ingredients for these, which sometimes they can be a little pricey depending where you live, they are quite easy to make. So I recommend giving some of them a try as a nice treat. In this tent as well, we can find So's equipment laid out. So being the main character you play as, which includes sword parts such as Tsuba Guards and even Mazo, which are various artifacts, relics, and talismans the player can equip for various benefits. The Tsuba Guards, much like many things you obtain in the game, have a model viewer, allowing you to see a few secrets hidden about them if you look close enough. One such guard has a very famous poem written on its back by Fujiwara no Mishinaga. From what I was able to ascertain through articles to get a more accurate translation, it would translate to something roughly like this. This world, I think, is indeed my world. Like the full moon, I shine, uncovered by any cloud. Even without the context behind the political and aristocratic mentionings of Fujiwara, it is still a very powerful and well-written poem. If you have played this game or you intend to, I highly encourage you to look at a lot of the objects in a bit more detail, as you might find things that you may have missed. On the top right, we have a stack of Emaki, or Emakimono, picture scrolls depicting various events of the story. In an interview with the devs, it is mentioned that a big influence of this game's art direction was through Nishiki-e woodblock printings from the 1700s, and ukiyo-e, a popular art style that likely has many paintings that you may recognize. One such as Takayasha and the Witch and the Skeleton Spectre, or Maple Viewing at Takao, and even Hokusai's The Great Wave off Kanagawa. As you play through the game, it is hard not to know these influences, and it looks fantastic, giving this game such a unique style amongst its own. Looking at just one of the many mazo, which I may have a video dedicated to these alone, because there are just so many to look at. We can see this one here is an Inro, or a stamp case. More or less a small purse that was hung from one's obi. Because of the lack of pockets in traditional Japanese clothing, these ended up being common practice to carry ones during the Sengoku period. And the one shown here is fairly accurate to what you would see with how decorative and unique one would feel, even having the little charms on the latter end. The craftsmanship of these would tend to vary depending on the class of person wearing these, and even in some circles it would be disallowed for someone to carry these. I think we have spent enough time within just this tent alone. You can see just how much care went into every little detail in this game. This game has a heavy emphasis on traditional Japanese dancing. This can be seen not only in how So fights, but as well as how Yoshiro moves across the map. Yoshiro, as well as the surrounding people, participate in Kagura. Kagura is a Shinto ceremonial dance that translates to a conjunction of seat of God. This is not necessarily meant as in an actual seat, but more as an idiom to mean presence of kami. For So, they have a fighting style based on dancing. The two styles available to So are Oka and Shiden. Oka reflects the type of which we see in styles based on Odori, a heavy, very flashing dance meant to garner more attention. And this ends up being the default and probably the go-to stance for a lot of people due to how versatile it is. Shiden, however, is shown to be more similar to my types of dances, slower and more reserved ones. These you might have been more familiar with, as they tend to reach outside the zeitgeist of the pop culture that we see. One such can often be seen in No Theater to help the audience better see the costumes and masks that are being depicted of the various people and emotions. Even when you're purifying the various locations, you can see that everyone is performing dances in hopes to help better garner their futures. This game is just chock full of minor little details. Another one that I found particularly interesting is when you pass time in the game, whether by force to accelerate to the nighttime or just time naturally passing, you get a UI display of the Zodiac Calendar. Just another detail that they really didn't need to include, but makes it feel that much better and well cared for. This is just some of the many things that you can see within Kunitsu-Gami. and I'll probably do some more videos covering it, as I really enjoy this game. Perhaps in the future I may cover some of the various yokai that we see in the game, as their details they went into with these is quite astounding. If you haven't played this game, I highly recommend picking up, as it is one of my favorite games of all time. I really hope to see more smaller projects like this from larger companies like Capcom, as their resources allow them to go really far beyond what you would expect for such a smaller game package. And that'll do it for this video. Thank you for watching. Up here, you can find another video. Over here, another video. Over here, subscribe. Thank you to my members. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it, as it helps the channel quite a lot. Bye!